Hi there, it's Nicole for Lawn Fawn, and today I'm showcasing the new Mermaid for You stamp set and coordinating dies, as well as I've used a couple of the new cross-stitched large rectangles to create a shaker themed card using these adorable little mermaids. This is a card where I kind of had a general idea of the direction I wanted to go, but it kind of developed as I went along, so I added a few extra things and whatnot as I created my card. I am die cutting the largest rectangle from a piece of transparency. You could also trim it to size if you wanted to. A lot of times I will die cut my transparency for a shaker using the die that I'm using for the frame, simply because it makes it exactly the same size, which is so helpful, and I don't have to guess. From some watercolor cardstock, I am going to use two of the cross-stitched rectangles and die cut them together. This is going to create my frame plus my inside panel where I'm actually going to create the scene that's going to be inside the shaker. Now, for whatever reason, my dies didn't cut all the way out. I think I probably should have rolled it through one more time or something. The watercolor cardstock's a little thicker. I just took my scissors and snipped them apart in a couple of corners where they were not completely die cut all the way through. And then I'm just going to take that inside piece and I'm going to use the Ocean Wave Borders die to die cut a nice wavy border right near the top. Now I'm going to inlay all three of those pieces, the frame and the two inside pieces, together, and using some distress inks and ink blending tools, I'm going to start applying color. At the top, for like the sky, I used tumbled glass distress ink. For the water itself, I'm using Salty Ocean and Blueprint Sketch distress inks. So that blueprint sketch is going to be right near the bottom. That's going to be where the majority of that color is going to be, and then I'm going to blend those two colors together. I went ahead and applied the color to the frame as well because I really love the look of a seamless design where the frame of the shaker or the frame of the card and the inside panel, it's all seamless, so it's all the same kind of design. I went ahead and spritzed that with water from a mini mister, let it sit, or from a distress sprayer rather, let it sit for a few seconds, about 25, and then blotted it dry with a paper towel. I'm going to set that aside and let it dry, and I'm going to stamp the images I'm going to use from the Mermaid for You stamp set. I went ahead and stamped the seaweed with the jalapeno Lawn Fawn ink, some of the coral with lobster and carrot inks. My other images, the line images, are stamped with some Simon Says Stamp Intense black ink. This is a great ink for Copic coloring. And then I'm going to go ahead and start applying, or coloring in, I guess I should say, my images with Copic markers. The colors I'm using are all listed across the bottom of the screen. I did start with this skin tone, and then I had a little trouble deciding where to go next, and I decided to go ahead and color in the mermaid tail, and I'm using some shades of green in YG 21, 25, and 17. YG 21 is my base color, then my darkest is YG 17, and I'm blending out with a little YG 25. Once I got the blend the way I wanted it to look, I went in and added some little dots to give the mermaid tail a little bit of texture. It's one of my favorite ways to add a little bit of texture to any design or a colored image. I colored in this one's top in shades of orange, YR04 and 09. For her hair, I'm using E53, 55, and 57. I laid down my base color and then I'm feathering in my darker two colors. The E55 is going to be probably the most color that you'll see, and then I'm going to feather in a little bit of my darkest color just to give the hair a little bit more definition and to really help it look like hair. I got a little too aggressive with it, so I am going to go back in with E55 and blend a little bit of that out, and I'll even blend it out a little more with my lightest color. Go ahead and color in the skin of my second mermaid. Really quick coloring here. E00, E11, and E13, a little R20 for the cheeks. Then I'm going to go ahead and color in her, well, I went back to the hair on the other one. This is where I decided it needed a little E53. And then I'm going to color in her fishtail as well, exactly the same as the first one, but I'm going to do her top in magenta colors instead. Again, using a little dotting technique there to add some texture to the mermaid tail. And I wanted her to kind of have red hair, so I'm using some different colors, E97, E08, and E57. I started with the E97 kind of as my base color, feathered in the E08, and then the E57 just brings in a little bit of some brown tones and really makes the hair, I think, look a little bit more natural maybe. It really doesn't matter. They're mermaids, so they're not real. So you could color the hair any color you wanted. Absolutely. Blend those out. Here's her magenta top. Go ahead and move down to my rocks. This is the rock, or the little trio of rocks that the one mermaid is going to be sitting on. I'm using E57 as my base color, and then going in with E57 and 49. And I'm just going to keep working with those colors until I get my rocks colored the way that I want them to look. Add some nice definition with my darker color. Blend those out. I did work on these a little bit, really adding some darker shading along the edges and along the stamping lines there, and then blending it with my lightest color. The crown is Y11 and Y08. And then I'm going to go ahead and take the coordinating Mermaid for You dies, snip those apart with some Snips metal scissors, and I'm going to use a little post-it tape to tape these in place over my images and then run them through my Big Shot die cutting machine, all with one pass of the machine. There are lots of teeny tiny little pieces here, so it's really helpful to have some sort of metal cutters that will work to cut your dies apart, I think. These little snip scissors are just an invaluable tool for any of the metal dies, I think. The post-it tape ensures that I don't have to worry that when I run this sheet through my die cutting machine that the dies are going to shift and move and maybe ruin all that coloring I just did. So there, I've run them through, kind of laid everything out. Now I put my transparency on top of the frame for now, just to kind of see where everything is going to go. I stamped that school of fish on the background using some black ink. And then I'm going to take a paintbrush, dip it in water, and add a little bit of water to the image, and then take a paper towel and kind of pull that ink up. So all I'm doing is taking clean water, applying it to the fish, and then dabbing up that ink color with a paper towel. This kind of helps remove the color from those images, and then I can go in with a little fossilized amber distress ink and paint that color over the fish. Super easy way to, you don't have to mask anything. I absolutely love that the distress inks react and work with water so well. It makes it so easy to do coloring this way. I'm going to go ahead and ink up my greeting with some black StazOn ink and stamp that right on my transparency. And I didn't get a very good stamping, and I didn't want to throw my transparency away. So all you have to do is take a little stamp cleaner. I spritzed a tiny bit on a paper towel, cleaned off the transparency, and it'll remove that stays on ink. Make sure it's good and dry. I inked up my greeting again and then stamped the waving hello right there on the transparency. I'm going to go ahead and stamp the individual fish a couple times down near the bottom. Do the same technique that I just did where I take a paintbrush dipped in water and I'm going to remove the color from the little bubbles and from those fish, and then color in the fish with the fossilized amber distress ink. And for the bubbles, I'm actually not going to put any color in those. I'm just going to use a little glossy accents to make them raised up. You can definitely see in that darkest color where the blueprint sketches how great it is to remove that color from the fish. I went over the bubbles a couple times, dabbing up that ink color. Again, grabbing my fossilized amber distress ink and coloring those fish in. And then I'm going to grab my glossy accents, and my bottle is about empty, so I was having a little trouble getting a good flow of the adhesive out, but once I get that, I'm going to go ahead and dab that right over the bubbles. I'm going to take a black pen and add detail to the eyes on all the fish. I'm using a little Wink of Stella clear glitter brush pen on the crown and on the two mermaid tails. Then on my 3 solid stamped images, the seaweed and the 2 fossil or coral rather pieces, I'm taking glossy accents and applying a thin layer to all 3 of these, and then I'm going to let them sit for probably about an hour, and then I'll come back and put the whole card together. This is just going to give them a nice glossy finish. I'm holding the frame in place on a standard A2 sized card, and then I'm going to replace the center part of the frame with those 2 pieces that are going to be the center of the scene. Go ahead and adhere my rocks and mermaid, all of the images, and build my scene. I'm using a combination of a tape runner and some mini bling Zotz bling glue dots to attach everything. Just kind of depends on the image. The smaller images definitely work better with the Zotz bling glue dots. And then I will add the other pieces to the right. Now, one thing I noticed as I started building this scene is I thought I needed some more fish. The upper part of the card is a little more, there's not as much going on, which is fine, but I thought it definitely needed a little bit of decoration. But I thought I needed some more fish. So I am going to finish adhering these last couple of images. And then in that kind of upper left corner, I am going to stamp a few more fish before I put the actual shaker together. So that is looking pretty good, but you can kind of see that upper left corner needs a little something. Plus I needed to move my one mermaid over a little bit. She was over those bubbles too much, I thought. I am going to take my tape runner and put some adhesive around all 4 edges of my frame and then place that over my transparency. That's a good strong adhesive and I don't have to worry about it coming off. And then I'll go ahead and take my fish again. I'm going to use a little post-it tape left over from when I die cut all my images. Stamp my fish. Again, take water to each of these. And then lift up the ink. I'll repaint those with the fossilized amber distress ink. And I want to make sure this dries. You can definitely hit it with a heat tool if you want it to dry a little quicker before you actually go and put your shaker together. You don't want anything to be wet inside of there. I even went and added an additional fish there to the right of the other mermaid. Doing the same thing, applying the fossilized amber. I've put 2 layers of foam tape all around 4 edges of my card. I used a powder tool to help keep my seed beads from sticking to it. I'm using some sparkling clear Pretty Pink Posh seed beads. I'll remove the backing paper from all 4 sides of my foam adhesive. And then I'm going to take my card to the shaker. Make sure it's lined up really good because this adhesive is very sticky. And flip it over, and there is my Mermaid for You shaker card. Thanks for watching this video showcasing the new Lawn Fawn Mermaid for You stamps and dies. The supplies I've used are listed and linked below the video on YouTube. Here are a couple more Lawn Fawn videos you might be interested in. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.